Good morning. Yeah, really beautiful. The surrounding, very green, everything very fresh. And then most important, I think everyone's face smile. So that's very beautiful, very good. I hope you have, last night you have, I think, good sleep. And then, of course, certainly here, very fresh. Otherwise, if you spent last evening or some kind of nightclub and not sufficient sleep, then perhaps here you may feel boring. Indeed, I am very, very happy to have this opportunity to talk with the public, and I consider the interact with the people is very useful for me. Through question and answer, I gain some new sort of understanding, and also sometimes through question, give me new question which I never thought before. Therefore, that helps me to think more. So useful. And also the way to put question also, indicate the feeling or interest of the others. So therefore, the meeting, interact, is something I believe mutual benefit. So I would like to express appreciation or thank to the organizer, who arranged this opportunity. So very, very thank. And also the people who arranged these things and also these equipment. I think you must be, last few days, I think you must be very busy. So I appreciate, thank you. And also, I want to thank the public that you come to show your warmth. Maybe some people have just a curiosity, but I think many of you come in order to express your affection. So I very much appreciate. And then sometimes the big gathering comes or happening. I little anxiety, since if you come with expectation, great expectation, then from my side I have nothing to offer to you. So you might get some disappointment. Now, the topic of my talk, the power of compassion. But before I touch that, I think I would like to say some of the background situation, background about the importance, why is the importance or relevant, the compassion in our life, why? I will tell you something. And as you know, I am Buddhist. I study Buddha Dharma. So some of my concept or outlook is related with the Buddhist concept or Buddhist idea. But this can't help. And then also, these things is something, explanation about the reality. It's nothing to do with Buddhist faith. So now the point is, the external things and internal things. The internal, when we say internal, they mainly refer our consciousness, our mind, and the emotions, and different thoughts. That's the internal thing. That's the subject side. So, when internal mind and external things interact or contact, in the mental there are two levels, two kinds of mind. One mind, like the senses organs, they perceive directly without discrimination, good or bad, or this or that. They simply get the picture of the object. Then second level of mind, then making discrimination. This is that, this is good, this is bad, this is something useful, that kind of things. Then come another level. Now, within the Buddhism, you see, there are different school of thought. So, according one of important sort of school of thought, then it said or it believed the appearances to our internal mind. It seems, you see, each things exist by independently. That kind of appearances there. But then reality, things not exist by independently. So there is always gap, appearances and reality. In our daily life, because of that background, we often get some kind of impression, but actually not according to reality, but we get some certain sort of impression. And in many cases, mental projection happen. And also, I think, one level, circumstances or the situation of the world always changing. Obviously, in economy, and also I think environment situation, I think every day things are changing. So the reality always moving, changing. So every day, practically, I think every day is new circumstances or new reality. But in our mind, sometimes they consider the things something more or less static, unchanging. Then I think more serious thing is the world, the reality, because of the population, and because of the lifestyle, and also the technology, things are becoming much smaller because the things much sort of interdependent. So everything interconnected, not only nation to nation, but also continent to continent, heavily interdependent. That's the reality. So according to that reality, this nation, that nation, my nation, other nation, that concept, that thing is according to reality, not important. But in our mind, still, we prefer the demarcation, we and they. So they accordingly, sometimes in our mind, we feel our own interest is something quite isolated or quite independent than the rest of the world. The reality, our interest is actually related with the interest of the world as a whole. So almost there is no isolated sort of interest or thing which not related with the world at large. So you see, the appearances and our perception and the reality always, you see, gap. So actually, I believe the education is supposed to bridge the gap, the appearances and reality. Especially like the scientific sort of research is actually they try to know the reality, not satisfy just appearances, but try to know what's the reality, what's the substance. So generally education, the information, the knows the reality, then that helps to reduce the gap. And then through that way, the handling about the situation becoming more realistic. Otherwise, the handling, try to handling the situation, but without knowing the reality, then sometimes the situation even more complicated, even is more difficult. Now, I think now, this looking way, this was the concept, help, to know the importance of environment. Our future, our sort of happy life, much depend on the environment. Then also, as a human being, we always sort of love or taking care about our next generation, our children, children's children. So therefore, even the sort of environment situation for our generation, this moment, okay, but unless we take special care, the next generation, and after that, may find more difficulties. So therefore, again, we have to take special care seriously because of that is reality. Our happiness depends on environment. And not only our generation, but coming generation, especially coming generation. If the
damage of the environment continues,
then the future generation certainly finds or face more difficulties. Then I think another field, the concept we and they. I think reality, as I mentioned earlier, world today's situation is heavily interdependent. So that's the reality. So according to that reality, now the concept of we and they is no longer relevant. But in our mind, still, the importance of the demarcation we and they. No matter how powerful one's individual person, his or her happiness or his or her future is actually entirely dependent on the society or the community. So the reality, one's own interest is actually very much dependent on the interest of other. So therefore, taking care about environment and about others' interest is actually interest of oneself. Then I think another level, our sensorial experiences, very powerful. Then another level, mainly the mental level, satisfaction or pleasure or pains in mainly mental level, and another mainly sensorial level. There are two. Actually, there's two. But in our usual sort of appearances, the sensorial level sort of experiences is something dominant. We felt that. So therefore, obviously, we up to now, we pay all our attention for material development because we get the impression the sensorial experience is the top most important. So the fulfillment of that level, yes, material things are supposed for that. So good food, is a good shelter, good clothing, good companionship. So these, and music. So something is I think the colorful, dress and different flowers are very good for satisfaction or our eye consciousness. Then music for ear. Then perfumes, perfumes with these things is good for nose, isn't it? Then drink, smoke for, for tongue or for nose, I don't know. That you see, obviously, see, drink these is good for tongue. And clothes, I think both physical feeling as well as the eye. So like that. So all these can sort of manage if you have money. So money become very important. So the national level, we always consider importance of national growth should be year by year must increase. If not increase, then people say not disaster. So we almost take for granted the limitless sort of was a progress. And in the meantime, consumption, fuels or many things, we consider limitless resources. But reality not that way. Then now, we believe, or we have the impression, the sensorial experience is the top most important. But if we, according to reality, I feel the experiences on mental level is superior, important. Reason, if someone, mental level, a lot of worry, a lot of fear, there's a lot of anxiety, then you see that negative feeling cannot subdue by the good food or the, I think, satisfaction or
The sensorial experiences, however good it may be, it is not possible to subdue the mental sufferings through the sensorial experiences.
Other hand, if mentally happy, satisfied, calm, then physical difficulties can be overcome. So this sensorial experience can subdue by the mental sort of experiences. So therefore, the mental level sort of satisfaction is the more important. Then furthermore, now some uses hard work, even sports. You see, in order to gain their sort of a goal, you see, they passing through very hardship. But physically, you see even some injuries, some pains there. But because they have certain sort of goal, mentally, you see, they clearly have sort of vision and goal. Therefore, in order to achieve that, they can bear the physical hardships, physical difficulties. So therefore, the opposite, I think, almost impossible. In order to gain some sensorial levels of happiness and sacrifice mental. I think if someone who really is sensible, then that is impossible. But to foolish people, sometimes I think it happens. I think just think about money. Then although you see, you day by day, it's a lot of worry, a lot of sort of anxiety, but somehow they accepted that. I think that's foolish, actually foolish. So except such people, I think in order to gain some mental level satisfaction, it is easy to sacrifice your sensorial sort of experiences. But the opposite, I think if we think of it properly, then it's foolish, difficult. Then, okay. So, I think then, now one point there, but now forget. Let me think. Not come, but that doesn't matter. So today, this is the material development. I think, generally speaking, not whole world, but it's a certain area now. Material development now really reach high standard. But that not necessarily the people who have all the material facility are definitely very happy. That's not the case. I personally witnessed, some very rich family. As far as material is concerned, they're plenty. There's no reason, any sort of anxiety. But personally, as a person, not happy. One time in America, I spent on the road, on journey. I stopped a short moment or lunch break at one house. That owner seems very rich, but then in the bathroom, I noticed the box little half open. So then, due to my curiosity, I think illegally, I open it and then examine, right? Oh, look. So there's some boxes of tranquilizer. It mentioned tranquilizer. So then I thought, oh, the person who lived in that big house, it looks very rich, but even that person needs a tranquilizer. So this is one sort of example. Then another, the real one professor, very great name, and also he personally told me his income is more than $1 million each year. Seems to say everything satisfied, everything's enough. But then he told me a lot of worry, unhappy. So when I met him, they at least last several months, he can't see other people. Very uncomfortable. Then he asked me what to do. And of course, I'm not a specialist, but according to my own sort of the Buddhist training, and I try to share sort of his worry and explain some of the nature of our life, these things. Then afterward, I heard his sort of mental worry, mental situation is much improved. So this clearly shows the material facility there, but the person not necessarily happy one. So the sensorial level satisfaction cannot sort of bring in deep insight happiness or the satisfaction. And then, yes, now I remember the point. No, then the demarcation between human being and other animal is human intelligence. Therefore, although the animals also have the mental level sort of experiences, however, the human being's mental level experience is much complicated because of the human intelligence. So the unhappy thing, mainly because of human intelligence. Then in such case, it is impossible to find a remedy or counter sort of measure for the unhappiness or the worry due to intelligence. You see, that simply, cannot eliminate. So the countermeasure for that kind of mental sort of worry must seek from intelligence itself, human intelligence itself. So that's the reality. So that's about the explanation of the background. Now, the human intelligence. Now, human intelligence itself, of course, marvelous, but it can be either source of worry or source of uncomfortable or source of happiness. It can be both. And also the human intelligence can be very destructive and very constructive. So in a way, I think among the thousands of different sort of mammals on this planet, in the ancient time, even some of those sort of dinosaurs, huge body, and also in the sea, you see the whales, some of physically is very, very big, and elephant. So there are sort of, I think, consumption, and there are sort of little distractions, environment, are very limited. So it automatically recover. But we human being, and also these animals, sometimes, and especially at the time of mate, you see, they're fighting. But their sort of destruction is limited. Now, on the other hand, we human being, I think we are, in a way, most troublemaker among the sort of thousands of different mammals. And sometimes I jokingly say, telling the people, if we really want this planet peace, no sort of serious trouble, then entire humanity should disappear. Then I think the world, planet may have more peaceful, more sort of natural way. So we are, in a way, really, I think, most troublemaker. But on the other hand, because of human intelligence, only human being can develop infinite altruism because of human intelligence. The other animal, especially the social animal, they have limited altruism, but no capacity to develop infinite altruism because limited intelligence. So now, the human intelligence balanced by sense of responsibility, then human intelligence become more constructive. So I think some kind of assurance that intelligence become positive and constructive, that's the sense of responsibility. Now, how to develop the sense of responsibility? More sense of caring, which is sense of affection on other. Think about common interest. That bring genuine sense of responsibility. So now, according the background sort of situation, and now it become clear. The one of our emotion we call compassion is something very important matter. So I wanted to make clear, some people have the impression they love and compassion, forgiveness, this is self-discipline, these considered as a religious matter, religious subject. So those people who have no interest about religion, then they also completely forget about these values. I think that's a mistake. Yes, all religions, all major religious traditions emphasize the importance of these things. But basically, these things and religious faith is essentially separate. These things, I believe, the basic human good quality. From the birth, these quality there. But the religious faith come later. Perhaps I think sound may not, I think, looks sort of nice. But sometimes I feel when we're born, we are free from any religious faith. But we are not free from human affection. Without human affection, we can't survive. Without religious faith, you see, we survived. We survived. Therefore, essentially, these basic human values are separate from the religious sort of belief. So, if anyone who have religious faith is good, because the various different religious tradition is, I think, very useful to strengthen, to increase these basic human values. If someone is who have no interest about religion, then okay, no problem. But so long we are human beings, so long we want happy life, and therefore there is no point to neglect about these human values, because these are the foundation of our good life, meaningful life. Then so therefore, these, you see, basic human sort of values is something very important for good days, very happy days, and happy lives. Particularly now in modern time, as I mentioned earlier, the world economically, and I think the issue of environment, the world becoming just like one entity, it's a one world. Everything, you see, heavily interdependent. Under that circumstances, now these basic human values are very, very essential. Now another thing, so long humanity remain there, because of human intelligence, different mental dispositions, different interests, different opinions, you see, different sort of, different interests, always there. So that is the source of conflict. Different opinion, different interest. Then some, you see, contradictions, some, you see, conflict. That's always there. Even one individual case. Now, for example, one individual in morning, certain concept or certain sort of ideas. You feel that is the right. Then more investigation, more think. Then afternoon, you may get just opposite, entirely different ideas. So then you need synthesize. Otherwise, you see, you find very, very difficult, very uncomfortable. You see, one way you feel this is right, at the same time you feel this is right, then you see, very sort of difficult situation. How to decide? Sometimes it's difficult. So if that goes continuously and becoming more serious, then sometimes depression and sometimes even suicide, you see, happen. So even in individual case, contradictory ideas, contradictory sort of as a thoughts, which sometimes bring difficulties. Therefore, now we need, as individual, you see, to try to synthesize or unify. So similarly, in one's own family, even just a two person, husband and wife, some different interests, different opinions, yes, it could develop conflict. But then you have to solve, not violent way, but through mutually agreeable solution. And the community level, some different conflict or different sort of, different opinions and different interests, and as a result, conflict there. And it is realistic to solve through discussion, through talk, and you see, they try to find mutually agreeable solution. That is national level or international level. I think that's the only way. Try to solve the problem through violence. That actually, I think, violence using force is out of date. In ancient time, when nation to nation more or less independent or isolate, so the interest of the different nations or each nation more or less self-sufficiency and independent, under that circumstances, you can justify using force, destroy your enemy is victory of you. But in modern time, the economically, environmentally, is heavily interdependent. Under that circumstances, destruction of your enemy is actually destruction of yourself. Because, your neighbor, enemy, now obviously, we are not talking in other space. If there is some other space, some enemy come from there, and then perhaps I think the whole world have to unify and face the challenge. But when I say enemy, it's within our own neighbor, isn't it? So therefore, your economy, now for example here, Slovenia, your economy very much depend on your neighbor. So more prosperity in your neighbor, ultimately you gain benefit. So destroy your neighbor, after all, you will suffer. So that's the reality, today's world. So the concept of using force is out of date. Meantime, the conflict remain there. Different opinions, different interests, always there. Now, what is the alternative? Dialogue, talk. So, while we promoting peace, non-violence, we must promote the alternative through peaceful means to solve the problem. That's a dialogue.
So now, in order to develop, I think, the spirit of reconciliation and dialogue, I think the compassion have, I think, very important role. Firstly, compassion develop respect of others' right. So, to compassionate person, the other's interest certainly will not neglect. Although your own interest and the other's interest, for certain level, some conflict, but still you keep in your mind respect of others' right, others' interest. So that's one, I think, important factor for compromise. Then another, more compassionate mind brings inner strength, self-confidence, less fear. So that one very important element to face the challenge, to talk. So in order to solve the problem, the only alternative is compromise or dialogue. For that field, compassion have important role. Then compassion for one individual mental peace, very important sort of thing. The more compassionate person actually can interact with the other fellow human being, even other animals, much more sort of easily, peacefully. The so long compassionate mind there, it automatically open us some kind of inner door. Through that way, we can communicate with others very easily, peacefully. If hatred, the opposite of compassion, hatred or ill feeling, remain there, automatically closed our inner door. And through that way, towards fellow human being, we always have the suspicion or distrust, and eventually you find it very difficult to communicate with others. Eventually led feeling of loneliness. So now these things, I feel, something important in our life. So according to my own experience, now I am now 67-year-old, and in my life, and many difficulties and sort of very sad experiences, many sad experiences, you see, happen in my lifetime. In fact, now more than 43 years, I remain exiled as a refugee. And meantime, news from my home, almost I think every occasion, the news from home is saddening sort of experience, sort of in news. So very sad, very sad. But during those sort of difficult period, I found the most useful, most reliable friend is my own positive emotion. That really helps me to keep my mind clear and fresh and keep enthusiasm and hope or determination. So therefore, according to my own experience, you see, these mental qualities are very, very useful in our life, particularly when we're passing through difficult period. So that's why I share some of my own experience to you. And if you feel that some of these points are, according to your own experience, seems some relevant and seems some interest, then think furthermore, investigate more, and eventually, if your mind is becoming more compassionate, then your health also will improve. I think your
medical expenses will also reduce.
so the whole through that way, your sort of what say lifespan also increase. I think not necessarily through meditation or recite some mantra or they making some statues or initiation, but I think real peaceful mind is real factor for longer life. So it's a further sort of investigate, it's a further experiment. And if you feel, you see, this my talk in the beautiful day is not much meaningful, then just forget it. There's no problem. Nothing because of price, right?
Then you can just forget it and you do not have to incur any extra expenditure.
Oh yeah, thank you very much.